So the question is, in the end, free education, that's all very nice, but who pays for it? Yeah? How do you get it financed? And the first point is that you have to calculate that there are higher costs in the beginning because you have to develop your MOOCs. I heard people discussing that who had done the MOOCs, and there was kind of agreement that a full cost would be probably around 250,000 euros for a course that you develop for the first time. Once you have done the first one, the subsequent ones might become cheaper. But another perspective on this is that this would be really the full cost, including the staff time, whereas if you just look at the production costs without the staff time, it's probably around 50,000 euros. But nevertheless, how to amortize that, who is going to pay that, and if you really save money through teaching and learning later on, how is this money invested then? Is it making education more affordable, or is it just creating a big profit for some people and leading to further cuts in the investments for learning and teaching? To close here, I will give you some prospects what could be happen with MOOCs in Europe. And I think what is a big potential is continued professional education. We have a lot of people in Europe which need continued professional education, and this is currently only to a small extent provided by universities. If you think about teachers, if you think about healthcare personnel, this is really a kind of clientele that has not yet been really targeted by most universities. And I think it's also a difficult group because you know this all from your own daily routine. You're working. If you would have to be 2 evenings or 3 evenings in the week somewhere to attend a course, that can be quite challenging. You might be able to do it in some weeks, but not in every week. But I think the idea to do an 8 weeks course where you have 2 to 3 times in a week on your own pace to go online and do some exercises, that looks feasible for most of us. Another possibility is to integrate MOOCs in regular teaching. And this has already been started, that teachers would just take a part of the MOOC and just use this, you could say, as a kind of a textbook, or a part students would watch the lectures but then engage with their teachers in discussions and. This is what has been proposed in the US at some universities, and it has created fierce reactions of staff at some institutions. They were worried that this would lead to a standardization of learning, that it would limit their academic freedom to teach. This was concretely staff at San Jose University, which protested against a Harvard law course that that was installed in their institution. And another issue is partial replacement or an alternative to on-campus teaching. So you could say maybe not everybody really wants to go and learn on campus. They could learn through MOOCs or MOOC similar online learning and just take their exams in the end. Well, there the worry is a bit in the US and probably also here that you might get into a kind of two-tier system that some people, if their economic situation doesn't allow them to study on campus, they would stay at work basically and study in their free time then. Another big possibility, I think, is really the third mission, which can be very different at every university. Most universities in Europe engage nowadays with societies. They do learning and teaching, they do research, but they also have projects with communities, schools, and I think a MOOC could also be an excellent means to establish outreach with communities and address some of the urgent problems that they have. And the fifth possibility is probably internationalization. And I think Spain has already given an example. The Universidad has started MOOCs, which are also taught in Latin America. and the University of Lausanne, the Polytechnic of Lausanne, which was already mentioned, is currently doing MOOCs in French, which attract a lot of learners in Africa. To close it, some open issues. The integration into and relation with Bologna. I think most people who produce the MOOCs do not really come from the Bologna side. But if we look at MOOCs, we think this is actually enhancing, facilitating some of the issues that we always said would be important for Bologna. So it could be a means to enhance student-centered learning. It could create more flexibility in learning paths. You could use, of course, the ECTS in MOOCs. But then the next point is, of course, how do you award credits? We think that this should happen because otherwise we would really really not use the opportunities that MOOCs actually offer. So I don't say that every MOOC should earn credits, should be awarded credits, but I think principally we should see it as our responsibility to answer to students who think that they should get credits for it. I mean, that's very much in line with what we have discussed regarding recognition of prior learning in the Bologna context for many years. And I think it's also an important issue with regards to the whole flexibilization of study. So if somebody does some learning and can prove that he or she has learned it, does a competence-based testing, why would you not recognize the credit? Another question is how many MOOCs does it need? At the moment, you can see there's a euphoria. It's mushrooming everywhere. But I think we will come to a point where we really have to think. I mean, your course in Mathematics 1 will not be the first course anymore. So do you really have to do it? And would it not be a good possibility to borrow these courses from another institution? So I think this is the next step which we will have to think. How do we do that best? What are the terms of trades, and how can we make sure that this is not becoming a huge cost issue for the universities, so that universities can exchange among each other learning their MOOCs? And linked to it is the O that I mentioned already for open. What does that mean? The Future Learn of the UK has been criticized last week because they brought forward a very fierce arrangement for licensing. Basically, the Future Learn earns all the rights, and the learners has not the right to use the content other than for learning, so they're not allowed to change it and charges for programs, the question how to finance assistance, and in the end also how to award then credits and degrees. So as soon as you award credits and degrees, you cannot have it open anymore. I mean, what is happening now at the moment is that the courses are kept open, and I think that is quite interesting. So the learning material is for free at most institutions with most providers. But if you want to take credits or a degree, you will be charged. Discussion about platform. I'm sure there are technical people here in the room who know that better than me. What we have at the moment is a pluralism of platforms in Europe, and my guess it will stay like this. There will not be the one platform that will take over. By the way, I think edX understood that. They have put their platform open source last week. And then something which we find very important is that a way of mainstreaming e-learning. I should ask the rector and the vice rectors who are here, how often have you been discussing e-learning in the past? I guess not too often. It was not really an issue which was on the top of your agenda. But this is what we see at the moment. As soon as it is about MOOCs, you get the attention of the university leadership. So it's a great possibility not only to discuss the MOOCs, but to discuss online learning and to discuss how we can change, how we can innovate learning and teaching in the universities. And this would also have, I guess, some changes for the universities' governance then. Last point, and I'm not sure whether this is interesting for you, but it's interesting for us as we are a European organization. What is the European dimension of this? I think we had already some improvement. I could tell you about some of the European developments. 3-4 months ago, I didn't know what's going on in Europe. So it becomes more visible. And we have established a task force which is going to monitor the MOOCs and will come up with regular reports. The other issue that I wanted to highlight here, as Lausanne has been mentioned, a first MOOC stakeholder meeting has taken place last week in Lausanne of how to develop the European dimension. And a first MOOC summit with about 200, 300 participants is going to take place then in January 2014. And then the European Commission is very timely opening up, launching the directive Opening Up Education, which is basically about e-learning, about e-economy, and. So that is quite a good coincidence. I think this is very important if we want to have some visibility, if we want to learn from each other. I think we have to create a European dimension for this and make sure that we all keep in touch and exchange our information and ideas and progress differently, in different ways, very diverse probably, as we do all things in Europe, very diverse, but somehow have the feeling this is still Europe. So I think that was it. I put just the 2 references which you would not easily find in the internet. And then, yeah, I think it's not so bad. It might be a game changer, but it's not Godzilla. So thank you very much for your attention.